here now. We have one with next edition of Saluki Sleuths, and obviously this one is on what has been our most requested.
Yeah.
I think one. So it has to do with steam tunnels. I'm gonna let you take this away after we do just a little bit of our teaser here.
Yeah, Caleb, go for it.
Has anyone checked to see if they got cell signal down here?
Did we make it?
It's official, we're lost.
Hey, I'm in my office. Look at this.
I think we can make it. I mean, you want me to check first and see?
We're going for it.
All right, well, spoiler alert, we obviously didn't make it out. It was some little touching. So,
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about what this experience was and what, tell us please a little bit about this.
Yeah, Caleb, I think I can speak for both of us. So both Caleb and I went down there and it was an incredible adventure. And you're going to see this in the video that it really was an exclusive tour. You know, they don't like to take people down in these tunnels all the time for obvious reasons. It's a big safety hazard. So we went out there under the full approval of the Facilities and Energy Department, and they took us around. And really, we got that experience of going through the tunnels, that sense of adventure, which was awesome. But we also learned a lot. I mean, when I was down there, we got to ask them all sorts of good questions about, you know, what steam does for SIU. And something that was fascinating to me, Caleb, was that it not only heats campus, but it cools it too. So this is a system that is running 24/7, 365 days a year. And I just thought that was super interesting because it works so hard, and it's been doing this since the 1950s. So it was a true pleasure to go through this system, see how it interconnects, and just see how hard it works. It was awesome.
All right. Well, and I think everyone might be able to hear me a little bit more now. I found out there was a problem. My microphone switched on me right before I went live on this machine I'm dealing with. But yeah, it was quite a time. And like I said, this was something that I think most of our alumni had requested that we go into, because I think it's something, to be honest, it's probably something a lot of people snuck into back in the day. They just don't necessarily want to admit it, but it's something that's kind of been lost to the ages at this point, and we're kind of the first ones to really get kind of a crack at it since then. I think the first ones to really kind of take a public tour on that. So what kind of surprised you about this?
You know, honestly, was just the whole experience of going down in there and seeing this system under campus. I mean, you just don't think like a world like this exists. Like, it's literally, you know, in the episode I wrote, it was like the skeleton of SIU, and the director of facilities and management described it as the veins of SIU. You know, we've got this power plant that is pumping out all this steam, and then underneath the university is just this maze and web of tunnels. And it was just surprising to see kind of how expansive it was. And I think Mark, who's the director of facilities and energy management, was saying that there's 4 miles. If you lined up the tunnels, there would be about 4 miles worth of them. And it was, and just to be able to see how much space there was. I mean, you really can walk perfectly fine. There's some spots you kind of have to crawl down a bit, but you can walk just fine in there. And that's actually very important. You know, it's not just a place for exploring, but Mark was telling us you have to have tunnels like that because those pipes expand due to the steam. That was another little fun fact we learned while down there. And in this episode, you know, you guys are really going to get a great picture of like how these pipes function, their purpose, why the tunnels exist. It's not just for fun. There's really quite a few very important reasons why they are underground and encased in a concrete tunnel.
Right, and I mean, there's plenty of space for them to expand in most places. A couple of places get pretty tight. It's not just the pipes themselves, but there's different levels of concrete, different sizes, and of course, you're talking about steam tunnels that were gradually built and formed from the 1940s all the way into the 1990s, honestly.
That's right. And Kayla, I mean, you were down there crawling with your camera going through this. So I think that's going to be a great part of this episode is, you know, for you guys watching, you're really going to get that experience as if you were there. I mean, Caleb really sucked it up and made it happen. I mean, he was with his camera going under the pipes, crawling, you know, there was areas that were a little bit flooded. You guys get the whole experience in this episode. And that's what's going to be really fun about it.
Yeah, there's a fun. If you want to play a fun drinking game with this episode, you can take a swig every time you see me hit my head on something.
That's right. There's a couple times you can hear. I did include that, Caleb. There's a couple times you can hear. Oh,
that's what you get for. That's what you get for wandering around in the dark, looking more into your camera viewfinder than where you're going ahead. So that was a particularly interesting experience for me as well. We had also got to talk with an alumnus who was the former public safety director here as well at SIU, Todd Sigler, and he gave us a little background on what basically it was like to try and manage, you know, just the general public's access to that as well.
Right. That was a fascinating conversation. That really was. And like from his perspective, you know, he was the chief of campus police in I think 2013 was his first year, or I'm sorry, that was when he finished. He was there. He started in 2004, ended in 2013, but he was an officer long before then, back in the 80s. And he remembers just as, you know, basically a beat cop on campus having to respond to calls about students in there, and talked about how honestly difficult it would be to pinpoint. And that's why they were so concerned about safety, because if you tried to call for an emergency, assuming you could even get cell signal if you were down there, I mean, they can't really find you. And back in that time in the 80s, they weren't using cell phones to call people. So you can imagine just how difficult it would be to find a student who became trapped in some circumstances.
I think one of the stories, it didn't come to me until after we did that interview, but one of the things that I remembered was when I was a reporter at the Southern Illinoisan back in the mid-aughts, I was going to do a story about the steam tunnel system at SIU. Todd had gotten wind of that somehow through the way, I guess I've been asking around about it, and he called me to ask me not to do a story on that, because he had just from a manpower standpoint, he had just gotten to a point where he didn't have to necessarily have patrols on some of the more obvious entrances to that.
That's a great story, you know, and like here we are, you know, however many years later, he was part of this edition.
It's been about 15 or 16 years since that time, but you know, never let it said that I let a story go after that, because here we are this month.
That's right. You have the receipts.
Right. So we got in. We take a look through it. I think it's something that a lot of alumni are going to find pretty fascinating. I mean, I think the statute of limitations on a number of things for a lot of our alumni are up. So if you do want to chime in and share some of your own misadventures down there in the comments, you can do that there, and I think you won't be held responsible for anything.
No, we've already had that, Caleb. Lots of people sharing their experiences, so we'd love to hear more. That'd be awesome. And you know, as we wrap up here, I was going to let people know how you get to this episode. You know, so right now we're just doing a live behind the scenes chat, and you can find the full episode on our Facebook page right now. It's uploaded, it's posted, it's ready for you. Also on our YouTube and our Twitter. So all of our social media, take a look. YouTube is a favorite for people, as well as Facebook. So you head to our pages right now. It is posted. Watch it, and please let us know what you think. Like Caleb said, we're all about the stories. We'd love to hear them.
All right. Well, we won't take up any more of your time here today. Go watch the episode, or watch it when it's convenient for you. But it's open, it's there, and put that one in the books, because we've gotten it. We got it done. We one of our most requested since we started doing this, and it's down.
Awesome. Thanks, Caleb.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good day.